Hello, my name is Devin Jones, and welcome to this edition of the Sparx Tribune Report. You can find me online at the user handle provided in the description box below and on the Sparx Tribune's website. That's the Sparx Tribune. Sparx is spelled with an X, thesparkstribune.weebly.com, and I'll include a link to that in the description box below as well. Today we're talking about the Fourth Amendment.
Yes.
And cheers.
The beer amendment. Cheers.
Just cheers to an entire bottle of vodka. I don't know if that negates any further cheers if you cheers the entire bottle at one time.
If I cheers the entire bottle of vodka, I'm not going to work tomorrow.
What if you cheers the entire bottle of vodka and then pour a glass out of it? Can you still cheers the further subsequent glasses of vodka poured from that bottle?
I already have one. Sorry.
So, is that a separate cheers?
Yes.
Okay, that's a separate cheers.
Cheers to beers.
Yes, the Bill of Rights is what we're talking about. The Bill of Rights to the Intoxtitution of the United States.
By the way,
and we're reading the Fourth Amendment.
Peanuts right now. I have my blue blanket.
Yes, Linus has my blue blanket.
Sure with that.
And anyhow, the Fourth Amendment, the text of the Fourth Amendment states, and I quote, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." Now, there's a couple of things I did want to discuss in that.
You start.
Did you have something that you wanted to say?
No,
I'm not trying to drown you out.
No, I'm listening. We've already had a little discussion about this beforehand.
Right, but they haven't heard it yet. So,
no, go ahead.
But anyhow, what I wanted to say first, the first clause is kind of what I generally wanted to focus on, as many people have focused on, but it is the most important clause of this, as it is the most violated. And that is specifically the right of the people to be secure in their persons, papers, houses, and effects. And how this is subsequently violated so often by traffic lights on every corner, on every storefront. You are being recorded, and with face recognition technology are implemented into a federal right. Cameras. That's what I'm addressing right now. Is the fact that cameras on every street corner, on every corner, everywhere, including your own laptop camera, and this is part of what Edward Snowden revealed in his revelations, is that our own laptop cameras and cell phones are surveilling us on a regular basis. Edward Snowden revealed that before having to escape to Russia for fear of political persecution for revealing that. And before we...
You got the dictionary?
Yes, I did want to elaborate on one thing. Because this was written in the 18th century, the term effects is, in our context, a bit ambiguous. At least it seems to be so, reading it from our standpoint here in the 21st century. So I did want to, because you are secure in your persons, papers, houses, and effects. It's mostly all-encompassing, but what is an effect exactly? And I'm pulling this up here, effect, and we're going to definition 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth definition is what would be described here, and that would be property or luggage. In other words, everything that belongs to you, this amendment is supposed to protect all of that which belongs to you as a person, as is backed up by the definitions of or the verbiage of the rest of this Fourth Amendment. When you put it in the context of persons, papers, houses, and effects, etc., it is backed up by this fourth definition, or the historical etymological definition of effects, your luggage, which also would therefore include discussions, and I'm actually going to leave this open just in case I need to reference it, but
probably happen.
It's quite likely. Damn intellectuals and their fucking dictionaries. But
screw the concept of actually having words meaning things.
Oh, which comedian was it? There was one comedian. Oh, we got ourselves a reader. Who was that? That was Bill Hicks. That was Bill Hicks.
God,
joking about being in a
time ago.
restaurant in the South and he's talking about anti-intellectual American society.
That'll pass you on to the back.
And right, and he's talking about being addressed by some waiter. So, oh, we got ourselves a reader. Look here, fellas, But no, he was making a genuine point about intellectualism.
Oh yeah, well, I went to school with Patton Oswalt and also John Stewart at different times.
Yeah, and John Stewart is smarter than a lot of people give him credit for.
Oh, he's
too. You should
smart.
Yeah, you should watch the documentary called "The Fake Newsman That Won Over America." It's talking about John Stewart.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, it's a good one. I loved it. But anyhow,
and Fourth Amendment.
But your persons, papers, houses, and effects, and specifically, I wanted to address effects because it was the ambiguous term and describing your right to your property, which includes intellectual property. It includes the data that belongs to you, even though they did not have internet in the 18th century when this was penned. It nonetheless refers to that and is covered by your effects, and that's why I read that definition, is because it refers to your property. And your intellectual property, your data, your information is included in that.
I do not disconcur.
But speaking of that, I wanted to not only bring up the fact that Edward Snowden revealed that our Fourth Amendment is being abridged on a regular basis by the FBI and the CIA and the intelligence community.
Don't even start on the
spies
don't
on American.
Even start. We live next to pretty much Camp Perry.
Yes.
We have black helicopters flying over us.
Yeah,
and they pretty much have. Well, I think I've told this story before. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but my friend Kevin used to go boating on the York River, and one day he got a little too close to the shore on the other side.
Oh, I've heard stories like this.
And the black boats came out.
Yeah, no, there was one story of somebody who was on a bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon. On a bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
And stopped on one of those little pull-offs.
Yeah.
By the way, for those unfamiliar, we're
Camp
talking
Perry
about the fact that
the CIA. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I was just going to describe the situation for those unfamiliar with our local area.
Okay.
Just watching nationally or even internationally on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Camp Perry, it's an underwater military base, and the only thing that you can see above water is like this horseshoe, where you can see the bridge that circumnavigates what's called Pier 13, and diagonal with it, or depending on how you look at it, you could say parallel, but diagonal with it is the Colonial Parkway, which it's a scenic route. There's lots of trees. You're riding along the York River.
Natural Park Service.
It is. And you're riding along the York River, and that's all you see is this little three-sided horseshoe-shaped squared-off bridge. But in between that and underneath is Pier 13. We house a lot of nuclear weapons there. It's a hot spot. But if you pull off, because there's little pull-offs along the entire Colonial Williamsburg National Parkway. And if you pull off on the wrong pull-off and get too close to the water, I've heard stories just like the one he just described, by the way, of people that have pulled off, like in the case that I'm thinking of the individual on the bicycle, pull off and they park their bicycle on that little pull-off and then approach the water. And the person that I'm thinking of, the particular story I'm thinking of, this person was met by people in scuba diving gear with assault rifles that came up out of the water to meet this person because they got too close to the water.
I told you the story of the binoculars, right?
I don't know.
So my other friend, who is since deceased, and I shan't name him, was at one point looking across the river with binoculars.
Mm-hmm.
He got a phone call. Said, "Sir, please put down the binoculars."
Oh, you did mention that.
Yeah.
I recall you telling me that.
Yeah. Welcome to America.
Right.
Land of the free, home of the brave.
But what I did want to get into specifically with regard to the effects word in that clause of the Fourth Amendment and the fact that it addresses, hold on, I'm putting this beverage down.
I may open the other one. I'm not opening this one. This is half a joke. This is half a joke.
If you open the other...
This is called tomorrow.
If you open the other beer, I'm likely to end up pouring a beverage out of the vodka thing then.
Well, then you have the vodka and I'll have the beer.
Oh, why would you do that to me? Anyhow,
Get you to go to sleep for crying out loud.
yeah. You know how many people want me to go to sleep? Huh? You hear this? No, I'm just kidding. No. Yeah, but
In any
seriously,
case, these are not jokes.
no, people do want me to go to sleep. That's what they're telling me.
I'm not
Go to sleep, America.
I'm not joking about this.
And I'm here to wake them up.
I'm not joking about this one too. I told you about Kevin and the 18-wheeler, right?
I'm not sure exactly.
Kevin didn't drive because he got DUI in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
And so he
Hold on,
lost his license
I'm listening.
and chose not to get another one. Unfortunately, on his way home from CW, Colonial Williamsburg for you out-of-towners, CW, he managed to wander across the street into the face of an 18-wheeler. Let's say the 18-wheeler won.
Right. But with regard to the Fourth Amendment, and that particular word being used, your effects, your right to your property. And I wanted to talk about intellectual property, your privacy, your data online, and how it is being abridged, because your Fourth Amendment does cover your right to your own personal data. And this is original reporting that I did just over a year ago, probably, called Smartphone Applications Surveying Audio via Your Phone's Microphone. This is not a conspiracy theory. I have verified this personally. This is original reporting. But we're talking about Alfonso Insights, and I'm just gonna read the article because it's only hold on, I'm gonna say 3 paragraphs? Hardly. 3 short paragraphs. So I'm gonna go ahead and read that. It's 3 paragraphs and a lead. A tech marketing company is working with smartphone applications to retrieve information from your mobile device's built-in microphone and sell that information to advertisers. The tech company Alfonso has, according to recent reports, partnered with a plethora of smartphone applications with access to your phone's built-in mic and used audio gathered to sell your streaming and viewing habits to advertisers with the nominal intent of targeting more appropriate consumers. According to Apptopia, a company tracking the software's distribution, there are currently 106 apps on Google Play and 24 in the App Store using Alfonso's information gathering software. The company claims to only gather information, and I quote, only after a consumer has provided explicit consent. Right, I'll get to that. Albeit this is only partially accurate. It is the applications downloaded to a given mobile device that are granted, quote, explicit consent by the user, no doubt given the assumption the built-in microphone is only being used at the behest of the user. In other words, when you decide to use that built-in mic in said app. Not whenever they choose to use your built-in mic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not whenever they choose to use your built-in mic at their behest, but you assume when you hit that I agree to your terms of service, that you assume that they're only requesting access to your microphone when you request access to it, when you request them to use it at the behest of that application, which is not the case. And I continue reading. Alfonso has partners with numerous companies, including financial institutions like MasterCard, Experian, and others in the company website labels data partners and tune-in attribution partners, including Amazon, BuzzFeed, CBS, The Huffington Post, Hulu, Spotify, Vox, and many others. Many of these being media news outlets.
I'm going to stick my finger on my butt right now and just pretend that they're doing it.
Right, this is where they pulled out their terms of service in the first place. Yeah. But those data partners, many of them.
Oh no, it's called a TOS. You know that?
Yeah, terms of service, right? But anyhow, and like I said, I just addressed that.
That's why people miss it.
I just addressed that though too.
I missed that.
But the software gathered from smartphones is paired with places users go, viewing habits, viewing habits, application,
hamsters, viewing habits.
Let me finish. Viewing habits, application, and social media usage, purportedly for the sole purpose of targeted advertisement. The New York Times covered the story, albeit they echoed a quote from Alfonso's CEO, Ashish Cordia, claiming that the user is knowingly opting in for surveillance. If this were true, however, the New York Times would not need to author a headline informing people of the fact, would they? Furthermore, the Times claims that the software, quote, cannot record human speech, end quote.
Bullshit.
Right. This is bullshit too. I didn't include that in the article, but I found that to be false later. Post.
It's all bullshit.
This is post publishing.
Everything is bullshit right now.
Post publishing this article, that was a fact check. I found out that these apps, by the way, are capable of recording human speech, and there are reports done on that as well. But I did not include that in the article at the time, as I was not at the time able to verify that as a fact. This article is only including information that at the time of publishing this article, I was able to verify as a fact, because that's all I publish is anything I can factually verify.
I understand.
Which is in that article.
That's called journalism.
Yeah, fucking amen. But anyhow, here we go. Where were we? Furthermore, the Times claims that the software, quote, cannot record human speech, end quote, while failing to disclose at any point during the article that the New York Times is one of the partners listed on Alfonso's website.
Fuck them all.
So, I just wanted to cover that. I just wanted to cover that because while we're talking about smartphones surveilling on you, by the way,
which they are,
application users, if you have a smartphone and you download these apps, the New York Times being probably one of the most popular apps that you might download. By the way, one of the most popular apps that you might download.
Cut them off. They keep charging me, and I cut them off anyway.
Well, not even paid users. I've had the New York Times app on my phone before when I had a smartphone, and I wasn't a paying subscriber of the New York Times, but it's the app that spies on your phone.
Oh yeah.
Now, at what point does the New York Times need access to your phone's microphone, your phone's camera?
When they stop charging my goddamn bank account for doing that.
Well, that's your personal grief with the New York Times as
a
company, but I'm talking about spying on users here. And the New York Times, we did mention the Huffington Post as being one of them. Mm-hmm. And hold on,
even fucking NPR.
Hold on, I'm going to read that short list again.
And I am progressive.
Here we go. Here we go. Here are some of the apps that are spying on users as revealed in this report, and I'm gonna requote this again: Amazon, BuzzFeed, CBS, the Huffington Post, Hulu, Spotify, and Vox. Again, like I said, along with many others, but those are some of the most popular ones.
I'm shocked.
Shocked
and stunned.
Shocked and chagrined. But anyhow, but many of the others, when I say many of the others are a lot of gaming apps. Like a lot of gamers that download certain various games from the Google Play network. Those games are likewise spying on users in the same way that these media outlets, smartphone applications are doing the same thing.
Let's take it. English, my first language. Second breather, and talk about the Fourth Amendment.
That's what I'm doing. Right now we're talking about your effects being your property and the invasion of your private property. Okay. This is the Fourth Amendment. And what I'm saying is that these smartphone applications are abridging your right to privacy when they spy on your content, when they use your microphone against your will, when they hack your... Yes, I use the word hack here because they hack your camera, like in the same way they have access to my laptop's camera that I'm using right now. Mm-hmm. The Edward Snowden revealed that my laptop's camera is being spied upon by the CIA and the FBI.
Now I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Of course you are.
Bring it on. That's my job.
What, to be the conservative pundit in the room?
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to be. And it's progressive, probably more progressive than you are.
I doubt it.
In any case, there is no law that requires a private company.
Oh,
that's where it comes from.
Here we go.
In fact, the Supreme Court has brought up the entire concept of private companies being able to do whatever the fuck they want.
So
I'm not a fan of this.
Now,
bear in mind, I'm not a fan of this.
Let me first suggest that this speaks to the power of social media, and also when we're talking about free speech, for example, and how if they hold a monopoly over your ability to communicate yourself in the social media sphere, that monopolistic power over free speech, it seems like something that should bind them to the First Amendment because they have such a monopolistic influence over your ability to communicate your opinions.
May I ask you a question?
Hold on, I'm not done, please. I let you make your.
You're never done.
Well, I let you make your point. But
no, I barely got 15 seconds in.
Well, did you have a rebuttal of that point?
No. What I'm saying is there is nothing in the Constitution that says that private media, private companies cannot do what they want to.
Okay, and is this okay, or is this a problem?
I really didn't get a 20-second in. It's certainly a problem. What I'm saying,
it is a problem.
What I'm saying is there is no regulation based on that.
Now, when a company has that kind of monopolistic power over your freedom of expression, is it not a problem that they are not beholden to the amendment that protects your right to express yourself?
No, because
it sounds like a problem to me.
Because the Supreme Court ruled it to the companies.
Okay, well, let me get this. Let me throw in this. Let me throw in this.
Okay.
And this and mentioning this is going to piss off some of my viewers, but this was mentioned by none other than one of the Boogaloo Boys. When I did it, I interviewed several of the Boogaloo Boys, and I wrote an article about them because they were being berated by the mainstream press. So I reached out to several of them, and in a group chat, I talked about this very issue. And one thing that they brought up, and I love the fact that they did bring it up because they were 100% right, is while we're granting them immunity for being private companies with their right to do whatever they want to do with our free speech, meanwhile, not only are we calling their CEOs before Congress, and not only is Congress pressuring them to censor more, but also they're receiving government subsidies. Twitter, Facebook, they're receiving government subsidies, so doesn't that automatically fall under the Congress category? Because if they're receiving government subsidies, then they fall under what should be considered congressional oversight when it comes to how they govern free speech on their platforms. So that's just reason number 2.
Congress can't control the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court has nothing to do with this. We're talking about Congress, and we're talking about social media platforms. Social media platforms are supposed to be the harbinger of free speech, and Congress is supposed to have nothing to do with it. When Congress calls these social media CEOs before their clown court and pressures them to censor people, that's a problem. It flies in the face of the First Amendment, telling Congress that it needs to restrain itself from prohibiting free speech. And secondly, that Congress is granting federal subsidies to these private companies with federal subsidies, and so they should therefore be held accountable under First Amendment restrictions to not bridle free speech. That's 2 different arguments, that these companies are out of bounds when they start censoring people.
That's the biggest problem, especially the Bill of Rights. These people who wrote this never envisioned what was going to happen.
But it's covered, though. We can defend our rights to free speech just based on what's already written. We don't need to rewrite the Constitution or anything.
It's covered. No. We certainly shan't, but we have done 36 times, 37 times, including banning alcohol and non-banning alcohol.
Right, well, banning alcohol was also unconstitutional. I mean, there's standing for the Constitution, and then there's disregarding it.
It fucking happened, and it did. Then we had to unban it.
Right, well, this is correct. Because we realized we were making a big mistake, because during the abolition period, the crime rate was going up.
Not abolition,
The abolition period of alcohol in the 1920s, when mobs and mob violence skyrocketed because people were smuggling alcohol, and there were literally wars
There are
between
different
various
evolution
crime
periods.
families. Yeah, this perpetuated crime, and they realized that. But this is off topic.
I hadn't noticed.
We are talking about the Fourth Amendment.
I hadn't noticed.
But nonetheless, how do you like the fishnets? They're cute, huh?
You've lost track.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, shit. We're off track. Why not talk
I
about
like the
fishnet stockings?
I like the fishnets.
Anyhow,
Here's the vodka again.
yeah. Cheers your whole damn big bottle of vodka. Anyhow.
In any case.
But if you're being spied upon by your laptop computer, if
No.
you're being spied upon by your cell phone, if you're being spied upon at every traffic stop, every traffic light, every corner store, if you're being spied upon and surveilled on a regular basis, if your data is if your data is being surveilled, gathered, and bought and sold on a free market online, I might suggest that you are not living in a free society.
No.
While the ideological right loves to ramble on about so-called liberty, let it be duly noted that this is not liberty.
Let me make one point, if I can. So I got in trouble at work because somebody decided to go through 8 hours of video and found me doing this. Just clenching my fist after a
Yeah, you did mention this.
Observedly terrible customer service.
You did mention this. I believe it was when we were talking about the First Amendment.
If I'm going to walk around and I can't clench my fist out of the observation of an irritating manager, how is that free speech?
I mean, that would be a little bit easier to argue against because you're inside of the store where you're working at.
Oh, seriously. All I did, I walked to the back of the store and did this. And then I walked away.
Well, I'm not defending,
Then I walked away.
reprimanding that behavior as being somehow volatile toward the work environment. I'm just saying, like,
I was nowhere near anybody.
As far as surveillance of employees within the work environment while they're on the clock, I don't think I can make such a substantive argument that it applies.
I'm sorry. That anger has not left me.
But
And I've been having a danger day. A dangry day? I just said a dangry day. That's a good one.
But basically, the Fourth Amendment is your right to your privacy, your right to not be investigated. And by the way, this isn't only, I mean, I have mostly focused on like internet technology and your data, which is being violated and should be addressed. Hence the problem for the necessity to advocate for net neutrality, by the way, because net neutrality, that issue affects this as well. But it also is being affected on a regular basis in person. When papers and mail are gone through.
Oh, easily. It's so easy to do.
Right. And government sponsored, government paid for hackers and hacks.
Well, I'm entirely convinced that occasionally people go through our mailbox.
Well, that would be a crime if that happened. If they physically went through your physical mail in your mailbox.
Be surprised.
I would be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because generally they do things that they feel like they can get away with. And this thing with the spying on your internet data, with regard, and I don't know if I touched on this. Before I close out, I did want to mention the fact that not only are we being spied on by these traffic cameras in stores and everything, but there's a certain facial recognition technology, and this can be looked up too. We're adopting facial recognition technology from China, and we're using that facial recognition technology to identify, to segregate, and to store information about individual persons that we've spied on or identified in public. This also is a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights, and I wanted to note that as well in the same conversation. This beer is almost gone. We're going to have to either...
There's one more.
Yeah, we're going to either stop talking or we're going to refill.
Good God.
But I do believe I have talked about what I wanted to discuss.
I'm out of topics. I'm just angry at the
But
moment.
at any rate,
I'm angry, Mike.
I'm going to read the Fourth Amendment one more time, and I will include in the description box a link to where you can find the original reporting that I did in the Sparx Tribune discussing the fact that smartphone applications are spying on their users. That is verified information. If you have any questions about that original reporting, feel free to DM me. I can verify my reporting to you if you wish. And you can find me on Twitter, again, at the user handle provided at the description box below. And I'm going to read the Fourth Amendment's text one more time. And I quote, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." And again, my name is Devin Jones. This has been this edition of the Sparx Tribune Report.
Mike Lambert, happy to be here.
And cheers
And
once more.
one little bit left. After that.
And you have a wonderful evening.